Hi, Joe. Welcome back. Nice to
Hi,
see
Laura.
you.
How are you? It's been so long. Yes, I can't believe it's been almost a year, but it feels like the years get longer and longer, but also shorter and shorter. So
I
time
know.
is warped.
I know. And our intention was to like hook back up last year, but you
Yep,
were busy. I was busy. We're both doing our own things, but I'm so glad
exactly.
to have you back on. I really believe in the right timing of things. So
Absolutely.
I'm just so excited to have you back on. And right before we hit record, we were just kind of catching up on our past year because Cho was on the podcast last year, I guess right in the beginning of the panorama. Like things were starting to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And I had found you on TikTok and I really wanted you to share your 2020 and beyond predictions. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the stuff that you said unfolded. Obviously, you didn't know in the way it would unfold, but
Of course.
some of the themes you talked about were the old and the new, Aquarian
Mm-hmm.
energy, and how that's going to affect us.
Mm-hmm.
But what actually unfolded was a virus and being in lockdown and all of
Protests.
this,
Yep.
protesting for injustice and rights and stuff like that. So I just want to hear from you, like, looking back now, how do you feel about your predictions and just maybe reflecting back?
That is a really great question. It's like hard for me to think like, did I know something ahead of time? Like, was it a psychic thing? But for astrologers, it's really a matter of like learning the language of the stars and the planets, and learning how the cycles work. And looking back, I'm not surprised. I'm excited and I'm happy the way in which things are unfolding. And I also feel still energetically that there's more coming, even bigger. I still feel like this is just the beginning of a cycle of revolution and change and liberation. I feel like this is helping awaken and align certain people to their own unique truth. But I do feel like the common themes of like progress versus tradition and like old versus new and like staying stuck versus innovating are going to continue into the future. And so I'm glad to see things kicking off. I'm glad to see the wheels in motion because it tells me that we as a collective, the soul collective, is moving in accordance to how we should be developing.
Yeah. And we were talking about, Cho and I are both Korean American.
Mm-hmm.
And the last year has brought a lot of ancestral healing for me personally, connecting back to my roots, and also with this activation of Aquarian energy. Like, what does that actually mean practically in this, really reality where we have to share space, this earth, with people we don't necessarily agree with?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with the Neptunian Pisces, like squaring the nodes,
Mm-hmm.
it's like there is a bit of escapism and illusion and people
Mm-hmm.
not understanding, like, what is the truth, who's telling the truth, who can we believe? Can you touch on that with astrology as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is one of the key challenges of this time for many of us. It's kind of like this initiation we're going through where we're really learning on a spiritual level how to practice discernment, I feel, and figure out what is truth and what is not, what is the Neptune illusion and what is, things are not what they appear to be. And we're learning we're regaining our spiritual gift to be discerning in terms of what is real and what is not. But I feel like with Aquarius energy, it's such a big part of this year. Jupiter and Saturn are both in Aquarius for all of this year. And Aquarius is all about the radical truth, essentially, and getting to the bottom of it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it destabilizes things, because Aquarius is truly revolutionary. So I definitely feel like it is calling on us to open our eyes to the radical truth. And with Neptune and Pisces, it's really like helping us understand that things are not what they seem, and that can be scary, but can also be a point of empowerment, essentially, and allowing us to see how there can be new possibilities when we shed the old mindset, the old belief systems, and the old way of being. I feel like, especially with Aquarius energy, there is a sense that we need to be cautious of any situation that is controlled by a center of power. Aquarius at its core is very much all about the community, and it's very much about decentralized power where everyone is on equal footing. And so it's really calling us to question certain peaks and institutions and centers of power that we have in our world, like corporations, governments, and all that stuff, and whether they can be trusted. And I feel like with Aquarius, the big theme is on transparency. Like, we don't need to be accusatory, we don't need to assume things, but we need to push for all of our centers of power to be as transparent and as honest as they can be. And if that means, falling into certain conspiracy theories or, having extreme views of thought, I think that's all part of the natural process to help us get into a better place of discernment.
Mm-hmm. So how do you practice discernment? Because we just talked about how we both went down the conspiracy rabbit hole. I certainly have, and I know all of them, but there is a point where I'm like, do I accept this? Do I want this to be a part of my reality? And
Yeah.
I think it's important to be aware of things, just
Mhm.
as, there are dark energies out there, but I choose not to engage in that energy just for my own mental health.
Yeah,
So how do
absolutely.
you practice a discernment with what is
Yeah.
true and what do you want to accept?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's still something I'm learning. Do not have a perfect answer for it. But one thing I've really learned is just to sit with it for a long period of time and not even like search for the answer, but ask for clarity and see what comes over the next couple of weeks or days. Definitely relying on my oracle cards, readings, other ways through astrology for myself, but really sitting with it and seeing what comes naturally, because I've definitely had moments where I've really gone fully into a stream of thought and then changed my mind completely. And I feel like that's okay too. It's a natural part of the process of learning how to whittle out what is true and what is not. But the best that I've been able to do is just to sit with my thoughts and understand that the true answer will come from myself. And the more that I try to remove myself from the opinions of others, that's when it's a lot easier for me to receive the messages that I need to hear.
Yeah, but also coming from, a Korean culture, which is collectivist, how do you reconcile that with a collective mindset, where your decisions and your actions have a ripple effect on your
Mhm.
family and your community and the collective. So
Yeah.
how do you make the best decision that feels safe for you, but also others, which is Aquarian energy?
Yeah, and that is a hard needle to thread for sure. I set the intention with everything that I do that whatever I do is going to be in the best and highest good for myself and for everyone else who is going to be impacted by it. And I still truly believe that we're at a time where we are relearning how to re-engage with our soul and with our spiritual center. And so, not saying that we should be selfish, but we should really take this as a time to unpack ourselves, to heal our wounds. And I trust that whatever we're doing that is best for ourselves is eventually going to be a part of the collective energy. But with that said, I feel like a big important thing that I've done in 2021 is to really band with like-minded people and to really try creating more offline tribes or working groups with people who really share my vibrations, I guess, or share my viewpoints. So I feel like doing that, we are collectively co-creating a vision of the future. So I think that's been really helpful too.
Yeah. So last year, it was, at least from our conversation and from what I've gathered, is it was the year to see clearly what needed to like basically blow up, basically like what was not working for us, which was a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And this year to me feels like the energy of change. Like you have to
Mhm.
make decisions to move
Mhm.
towards your highest timeline.
Mhm.
And without going into a whole episode about 2021, what is your feeling and the energy of 2021 astrologically?
That's a great question. So obviously 2020 was a lot more energetically powerful than 2021 in terms of alignments. But the big theme of this year is Saturn square Uranus. That is the big alignment coloring this entire year. And it's similar themes to last year in many ways because Saturn represents tradition, how it's always been done, governments, corporations, and Uranus represents innovation, progress, liberation, doing things that are revolutionary for ourselves. And so I feel like those themes continue, but the square aspect shows me that we're now seeing like where there are multiple obstacles that perhaps we can't bash through. The square says that there's a conflict and perhaps it's not going to be fully resolved by us going through the traditional means. We may need to just completely start ignoring, detaching from institutions or centers of power that we don't feel like is helpful for the community. It's not like we need to participate in that game or to feel like we need to enact change within the system. I think there is a sense that we need to be more and more thinking about how we can remove ourselves from a capitalistic system or societal structures that are keeping us within the rat race and all of those things. The more that we actually detach, we don't want to feed into the beast anymore. So I feel like it's showing us that there are only so much we can do within the system, and we need to be proactive and doing other things apart from that.
Yeah, I agree. And we were speaking about like how we're each of us are at a different level of awakening, or not levels in terms of like higher or better, but just like where we're at in terms of like, some people think of awakening as a spiritual awakening, that we understand we're more than physical bodies. Some
Mhm.
people awaken to the fact that there's injustice in America.
Mhm.
Other people awaken to the fact that we are being controlled by the government, like, different
Yeah.
levels. And so I'm very curious if there's anything astrologically that speaks to like all these different levels of awakening, and
Hmm.
how do we get onto the same page so that
Mm.
we can collectively move towards the same goals.
Yeah. I feel like you're absolutely right that there are different levels of awakening happening, of awakening. Not to say that any level is better or worse, but I feel like the main initiation that we're going through as a society right now is like, are we willing to confront, and are we willing to accept the fact that things are not what they seem, and that the worldview that we have grown up with is not true, or accurate, whether that is about race or about like more nefarious things. But I feel like as long as you can approach those crises with open-mindedness and a willingness to change your mind, like you are doing what you need to do essentially in order to aid the collective awakening. It's not like we all need to become extreme conspiracy theorists, or like we need to all become social justice activists. But the more that, as long as we are willing to confront our biases and to accept the fact that what we have been led to believe may not be 100% there, I feel like that's all we need to do. And at the end of the day, I also feel like there is no same page, I guess. It's like the overall umbrella is like we are confronting our biases, or confronting our shadow self. That is the same page, I guess, that we're trying to get on. Is like the more that we all do it together, whether that means about race or whatever other topic, I think we are actually pushing the force together, even if it's about different subjects.
That's true. And I guess Aquarian energy is also about liberation on all fronts and every
Exactly.
different aspect of our lives.
Exactly. And like, you don't know what someone needs at that moment. It's obviously different from what you need. I remember one of the first things that liberated me was race, actually, and confronting with the fact that I am Asian, and like I had stereotyped myself and all the things that arose from that. So yeah, it's just interesting to see how other people are moving through that now too.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever asked you, but what are your big three?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm a Taurus sun. So fun to talk astrology. I'm a Taurus sun, so I was born in May. I am a Leo moon, actually. So this season is like really getting me fired up, really getting me
Yay.
excited. Yes, and I'm Aquarius rising, so I do feel like I have the ability to see things through more of a collective lens and try to at least feel energetically what the collective needs to hear from me.
Wow. So fixed energies, huh?
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, yeah, a blessing
Really,
and a curse. Yeah,
really hard to change your mind.
triple fix. Oh yeah, that is what I've been going through all of last year. I'm sure you can imagine.
So funny. So Saturn's retrograde in your first house. Yeah.
It is actually my 12th house because I'm at the last degree of Aquarius, but you're right. And Saturn is interesting in Aquarius because Saturn's bringing restriction to a sign of liberation. I think it's calling on us to really be cognizant and be smart, basically, about how we're building the revolution. Like some of us may be going too far too fast,
Yeah.
and if there's not a level of like collective buy-in as well, speaking to people in the way that they want to be
Mhm.
spoken to at the moment. Yeah, I think in retrograde right now, it is going to ask us to be more discerning about that. But now you had brought up awakening and just reminded me that Jupiter in Pisces, I think that is one of the big transits this year that a lot of astrologers have attributed to a greater wave of awakening happening in the world. And Jupiter was in Pisces from May until the end of July. So we have a short window of it here, but Jupiter is the planet of growth, abundance, luck. Pisces is the sign of spirituality and transcendence. So it's really bringing growth of that in all forms in collective society. And I definitely feel like that coincided with the eclipses and it brought new understanding to people. And the thing is that Jupiter is going to be in Pisces for all of next year, all of 2022. So I definitely see more of that on the horizon. And I predicted for a long time now that like spirituality is becoming mainstream and it might even become a political force, honestly. So I see that happening basically.
Yeah, and when Jupiter went into Pisces, I forget, like in May or something,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, everything's gonna open up. People are gonna get super like wide open, you know, expansive energy. People are gonna get really excited, and then when it goes back into Aquarius, that's when we're gonna shut down again, and the things are gonna
Oh,
start spiking up because, you know, Aquarius is like the cold energy, and
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
and
didn't think about it that way.
I was like, this isn't looking so good. Everybody should like not take it
Yeah,
not take it too far.
yeah.
Like have
That reminds me.
fun, but yeah.
Well, then you bring up a great point about Aquarius too, because Aquarius, so much times it's attributed to being about community, humanity, collective, which is true, but also it's weird because the duality of Aquarius is that it's also hyper individualistic and hyper independent. And I feel like a big lesson that we need to learn is having sovereignty over ourselves this year and into the future. Like, we are sovereign beings. We do not need people, especially in centers of power, who may not have the best interest telling us what to do or how to live. Anyone who is trying to take away our autonomy is to be questioned. Again, it's not to be accusatory, but it's like absolute transparency. Like, is this necessary? Is this helpful in the long run? All those things. But sovereignty, I feel like, is a big one. And I do also feel like that will lead to more and more people detaching from the system and being self-sustenant. I think that's a big theme in the next coming years.
Yeah. My favorite mantra for Aquarius is the best thing I can do for you and for us is to work on myself.
Yes, exactly. I love that because Aquarius is the opposing sign of Leo. We are Leo season, and Leo is kind of known for being selfish. But Leo teaches us that, like, we can't do our best work for the community unless we're being selfish to ourselves. At least, like, following our heart's desire, doing what truly makes us feel passionate and alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is how we make the biggest difference, actually.
Yeah, I love that. So let's get into August, because I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's Leo season, fellow fire sign. I'm excited
Yes.
for Leo. I'm excited for Leo season and in August.
Hmm.
But I just want to hear from you. Like, you can shout out some dates. People can get their
Yeah,
calendars and write notes. What sticks out to you? What energies stick out to you? So without further ado,
absolutely,
here we
absolutely.
go.
I'm sure everyone's kind of excited to move away from Cancer season, which just ended July 22nd, because that was so much more of an emotional, sensitive time. But yeah, now that the sun is moving into Leo, which is the sign that it rules, it feels comfortable there. It's really like it is time for us to shine each of our inner suns, if that makes sense. We have the light of the sun within each of us, which really drives us to be good at certain things or love certain things, have certain passions. And this is the time to pursue them, even if other people are telling you that's not what you should do or that's not what's going to make you money. Aquarius teaches Leo that the more that you can, rebel against the opinions of others, the easier it is for you to shine your inner sun. So I definitely feel like this is the season to make yourself seen. And I feel like a big theme of Leo always is healing the inner child, because Leo does rule children and youth energy. We need to connect back to our youthful exuberance and our joy and what makes us feel young again. And with that, I think it'll be clear on how we need to go after our passions. So I definitely encourage everyone to be more bold, be more courageous. Socializing is a big theme as well, I feel, because Leo is going to make some trines to Gemini. So I feel like the more that you can be networking or communicating with people, you'll get some great ideas too. But a few things I did want to point out. One thing I think is interesting is that the Sun and Mercury are in Leo this month, and then they will be opposing Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. So there's that Leo Aquarius dynamic again. So similar to what we just said, but it's the question of, like, how can we pursue our heart's desire in a way that makes an impact for the collective at large? How can we allow ourselves to follow our passions, and trusting that that is exactly what we're meant to share? And with that opposition, I do feel the sense that this month, some of us may be challenged to grow beyond our limits or grow beyond what we think is comfortable. And this is a moment of trust, basically, for the universe, that, like, even if you take that radical step and do something that's totally not within your wheelhouse, that is exactly what you're meant to be doing. So I think that's really exciting. The other thing I want to mention is, Jupiter has just re-entered Aquarius. It's happening at the end of July 28th, and it's gonna be in Aquarius until December 28th. So 5 more months, and this is not going to happen again until 2032. So the last time Jupiter is going to be in Aquarius for the next 10 to 12 years. So again, we really have a lot of luck, Jupiter, when we do the Aquarius thing, which is rebelling, experimenting, saying what's on our mind, being curious, open-minded, aligning to like-minded people. So I just want to put that out there for everyone, that you are supported in being radical, rebellious, because I feel like at the end of the day, rebelling just means you are listening to yourself and not other people. You are being more true to yourself. So like the more that we can embrace that mindset, do the Leo thing of saying, you know, this is what I deserve. Like, this is what I'm meant to share. I am a star. You know, I am someone who is supposed to be making a meaningful impact, even though we can feel like we don't make a difference sometimes. Hopefully everyone can feel empowered with that.
Mhm.
But I also want to share about 2 moons that we're having this month, the new moon, obviously, and the full moon. August 8th, we have a new moon in Leo. So this is really going to be a beautiful time to set some long-term intentions on how you can allow yourself to shine brighter. How can you allow yourself to do more of what you love? Thinking through the ways in which we may have been holding ourselves back because of the opinions of other people. This is a moon where you are given permission to set intentions that help you follow your heart center and help you follow like what you know you are meant to do. And this moon will also make a square to Uranus. So it's going to bring a lot of rebellious energy, I feel like, to the collective. Maybe it's during the beginning week of August, some people might feel a sudden urge to rebel or a sudden urge for freedom. You might really suddenly break up with someone. I'm not exactly sure, but embrace that energy. It's coinciding with the new moon for a reason, because the new moon is all about new cycles, new beginnings. And so I think there's a little bit of a shakeup potentially in the beginning of the month, which kind of helps us set bigger goals for ourselves than we may have otherwise. And then what I'm really excited about is the full moon happening on August 22nd, because there's a full moon in Aquarius. And this is a really exciting full moon because it is the second of 2 full moons in Aquarius in a row. So July, we have a full moon in Aquarius, and August, we have one as well. And it's quite rare, honestly, to have 2 moons back to back in the same sign. And when it's Aquarius, like, I pay attention, obviously, because Aquarius is the big sign of this season. So I feel like this month in general has an air of manifestation for me, because full moons are about manifestation, reaping what you sow, receiving what you have been working towards. Full moon in Aquarius bringing us some of the rewards of the Aquarius work we've been doing this year, rebelling against society, rebelling against norms, striking off to do our own thing. I definitely feel like there's a sense that August is going to be a big month in terms of manifestation, or finally seeing the results of your hard work. And I also say this because the moon will conjunct Jupiter. So that's the main thing, Jupiter bringing luck and abundance. So I definitely feel like there is like outcomes in store for us, or even just clarity about, you know, what we're supposed to be doing in the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So exciting.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like it's not like that. There are other months that were more energetic, especially towards the beginning of the year. We had bigger alignments. So August is not as big. You know, we've passed some of the major retrogrades, we've passed some of the major eclipses, but with this quieting of energy, it's like we finally have the space to see the fruits of our labor and all those things. So I definitely feel like that's going to come into fruition, especially towards the end of the month for a lot of people.
Hmm. So not that there's like a good or a bad, again, it's just energy, but would you say August is the most flowy month of 2021?
That's a good question. Uh, Not necessarily the most flowy, because whenever Leo is involved, you know, Leo is still very focused and directed. It's not a water sign. But I feel like this can be a month really of like empowerment, I guess, of receiving messages that give you confidence that you are on the right path,
Mhm.
feeling your heart center light up, feeling your sun become infused with life vitalizing energy. I just feel like this is kind of like the infusion of
Mhm.
good energy that we need right now to finish out the year strong. And again, the fact that Jupiter has entered Aquarius just before the start of August, I mean, it's a really clear call that we need to really be trusting that we can do things differently, and we don't need to follow what the mainstream is doing. And honestly, we have more luck when we do rebellious things, because that's what Jupiter says.
Yeah, it's just maybe some people around you are like, she's weird.
Exactly. And that's the big thing with Leo too, because Leo is a sign that needs validation. So
Yes.
this is a good season to think about how you can let go of the need for validation, or create ways for you to receive healthy validation from people. Because I feel like sometimes we tend to like fixate on people's opinions, where they might not even be in our field or our circle. They have no idea what we're doing. And yet we get so caught up in the negativity. So like, it's healthy to receive approval and validation, but it needs to be from the right people who understand you and your journey and all those things. At the core, you still need to be understanding that you know what's best for you. So you don't need the approval in the long run.
I find that very true for Leo moons.
Yes.
Leo moons need that validation and they need to know that they are the lion, you know?
I say that to my boyfriend all the time. I'm like, I need praise. I need to be told I'm doing a good job. Like, he's a Capricorn moon, so sometimes it can clash. But you're so right about that. But that's what I love about Leo is because at the end of the day, Leo is their own biggest cheerleader. They know that how to pump themselves up and to see the beauty of them of their own gifts and talents. And so that's what I want to encourage everyone else to do is like, what makes you proud of yourself? What makes you feel good about yourself? Those are the things to really tap into this season because that is how we feel more abundant, more lucky, and gives us the freedom to do more independent things. And so hopefully everyone can imbibe a little bit of Leo this season.
And if anybody needs an archetype, look at J-Lo. She's literally the archetype of Leo that I look at. She's Sun, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Moon, but like, she's 52.
Mm.
She is just like on her Instagram, showing off her body, making it with Ben Affleck. Just like, she does not give two fucks. She's
living
just
her best life. Exactly.
And I think that a lot of people don't like Leos because that's the characteristics that they want as well. Like they want to be more self-confident and wanting to shine and have that power.
Exactly.
So I think people are a little bit jealous of Leos, to be honest.
And that's the thing, it's like the astrology shows us that each sign is important. Like none of them are good or bad. Like those are all important energies for us to have. But I do want to say, everyone does have Leo somewhere on their chart. So if you look at your birth chart, you will see Leo somewhere on your chart in a certain house. So you may want to check out that house because that house is the area of life where you have the most Leo energy available to you and you can be the most courageous and ferocious and all of those things. So you may want to look into that house to start tapping into that side more.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can look at your sun because Leo rules is sun, and that's that specific energy of the sun that you embody.
Exactly. I'm really excited because I feel like, again, we've been kind of being very internal during Cancer season, kind of like hiding out. But now I feel like a lot more of us are ready to get out there and show ourselves off and show off how well we can do. And I think this is all part of the Aquarius mission that's going to take us through the rest of the year.
So from what I'm getting from August is a month to really shine, to really be authentic to who you are, to really listen to what your heart desires and surround yourself with people that can like lift you up and support you in your true resonance of your who you truly are, so that like when we go to the fall, when we're in Virgo, Libra, and then Scorpio season, it's like you'll start seeing your harvest. You'll start seeing like the abundance of what you've been planting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's totally right. Because the harvest is coming up for us in the fall. And Leo reminds us that if we're not following what is meant for us and what our heart is truly calling us towards, then we're not going to receive what is meant for us in the long run. And so I definitely feel like it's important. And with everything you said, being proud, seeing what our best talents are and all of those things, I think we also need to ask ourselves, like, what is getting in the way of that? Like, what is making me feel unconfident or like I'm not good enough or not as good as other people? So I just want to, again, reiterate that inner child healing, I feel like, is a big theme of this month, that we really need to sit with ourselves, be honest about maybe certain ways that your parents may have raised you or treated you, the stories and narratives you heard about yourself growing up, because, those are going to be holding you back. But this is a time for healing, and the best way to heal the inner child is really just to reconnect to your joy. So the more that you can let go of the schedules and to-dos and all that stuff and kind of if something is not making you feel passionate and excited, then you should not do it during Leo season. Like, you should say, okay, there's another time for that.
Yeah.
This is the time to really connect to things that are making me feel excited about life.
Mhm. Exactly. And it's so simple, but people don't make the time to do it. And I just
Yeah.
asked my two cousins who I literally like changed their diapers.
Aw.
It's crazy. One of them is 24, the other is 27.
Mhm.
And they're so serious. They're so serious
Mm.
at life and they haven't even had their Saturn return yet. And I just asked them, I was like, what do you like to do? And they
Mhm.
were like, I don't know. And I'm like, but you're so young. What do
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
mean? Like,
exactly.
what do you like? What gives you joy? Like, what brings you joy? And one of them said food and like mukbangs. And I was like, that's amazing. And the other one said climbing. But it's like some people don't even know what they like because
Mhm.
they're on that like hamster wheel of
Mhm.
working, surviving, scarcity mindset. And
I feel like
yeah,
that's a collective issue we have too,
yeah,
and that's why Leo season is so important. We're kind of bred to be that, to bred to not think about what our interests are and just how we can be useful to the work system or whatever it is. Even things I see like the sexualization of younger children, or how younger and younger people seem to be getting and more sexualized. I definitely feel like for some reason collectively we are manifesting a situation where we are really reflecting our inner child wounds, like how we were not able to have that joy growing up, or we had that joy beaten out of us quite at an early age. So again, just hopefully Leo season brings healing. I definitely feel like the new moon in Leo will clear a lot of stuff out for us so that we have the space to introduce new things.
right. And then something that you said about like surrounding yourself with the right
Mm.
people. I love Jim Rohn's quote, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I also feel like that's Aquarian energy. It's,
Mm.
you know, I think people don't do enough conscious uncoupling of friends.
Mm.
Me personally, I've had friends since I was 6, and it wasn't only until this year where I was like, maybe we're not on the same vibe.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
energetically, you want to be around people who are growth mindset and
Mhm.
expansive and are curious and want to grow. And
Mhm.
if you're not surrounding yourself with people like that, then you need to like question those people.
Yeah, exactly. Again, like Aquarius is both community and hyper individualism, and sometimes we need to detach from everyone actually,
Mhm.
and to refigure out like who is me, like what do I like, and all those things before you can be of service to the group. When Aquarius takes it too far, they become isolated, they become loners. But it's totally healthy to detach once in a while, and to figure out like what is your soul calling on you to do, not your friends.
Yeah. So I'm an Aquarian moon, and
Oh,
and my shadow side is ghosting people.
yes. Oh my God. As an Aquarius rising, yeah, I do that too. I like to blame it on that. I don't text people back. Like, I'm
I'm
like,
like, bye. Which is such an Aquarian thing. I heard it's like if you don't like something, you just because we're so future forward thinking,
mm,
we're like, bye.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But I feel like Leo reminds us that not that we need to seek approval from others, but we should care about other people's opinions, because it also means caring about their feelings.
Mhm.
Aquarius can be a little bit too cold and detached in that sense. So this
Yeah.
is a season for us to practice wearing our hearts on our sleeves, basically being more emotional, being more vulnerable. Sometimes Leo takes it too far and they're too self-centered, but oftentimes I feel like we're not doing that enough. Like, we hide what we feel, like we always listen to other people.
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling emotional, let it out, roar, lion, all of those things.
Are you still on TikTok? Did you come back?
No, I'm not. I know I think about it all the time. I go back and forth. So no, not
I'm
yet.
on TikTok.
I know. But I feel like I'm feeling like perhaps TikTok is not the platform that I want to be on in the long run. But I'm still figuring it out, honestly. I'm still trying to work with Instagram just with that.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
that in itself is hard.
Same. Well, there's this trend going around on TikTok, like being the main character of your life, like the main
Mm,
character energy, which is like very Leo,
yeah, I
and
love that.
also shoot your shot, like,
Oh.
which is what you were saying in the beginning, like take a risk,
Mhm,
even if
mhm,
you don't feel like you're qualified or
mhm.
my thing is sometimes we're so afraid of rejection that we don't go after the people and things that we truly want to because we're like, oh, what if we get rejected?
Mhm.
But I feel like this month, what you're saying is like, shoot your shot, just get after it.
Exactly, exactly. Again, Aquarius, Jupiter is bringing luck to Aquarian acts. So we're really going to experience more growth, more abundance, the more that we do Aquarius like things. Um, so I guess as much as you can have faith in that, have faith in the astrology, you may want to check which house you have in Aquarius, because you might want to start in that area of life to do something rebellious or something unexpected just to get your feet wet. But I think with rejection too, it just comes back to how strong is your heart? Like, how confident are you in your own talents, your own abilities, like the Leo things too. So it goes both ways. It's like you have to have the Leo side in order to not be afraid of rejection, and to also do the Aquarius side of making more of a meaningful impact.
Yeah. So the sun does go into Virgo at some point in August.
Yes, the end of August 22nd, I believe, or something.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And then the energy changes into like Virgo qualities.
exactly. More practical. So Virgo, in a nutshell, is practical. It's work oriented. It's organized. It's meticulous. But it's interesting actually, because we have Mars and Venus both in Virgo for most of August anyway. So it's almost like we're having this energy filter into the collective first before the sun moves into it. And I did want to talk about that because again, Leo season is making us want to put ourselves out there, be more bold, like not be afraid to say what's on our mind. Um, but with Virgo, we may find that we are the most motivated when we are taking the time to plan things out before kind of shooting the shot, I guess. I mean, you should be doing that, but the more that you feel like you have a plan or at least an idea of what's happening, that might give you more courage and more abundance in the long run. So I do feel like if you want to be, reorganizing things or creating a structure or creating new habits, like those are all good things to do. And yes, when the sun fully moves into Virgo at the end of the month, then that's when our collective drive is all going to be oriented towards Virgo, and we might find it easier to create some of those organizations. But it is good to start now.
Mm.
Yeah. And that reminded me actually, because this month Mars and Venus in Virgo are opposing Neptune in Pisces, so there is that energy alignment there as well. Virgo is like very practical, and Pisces is very spiritual, so they're kind of very opposite. But I feel like the question is like, how can we be practical and be structural, be organized in a way that gives us space for more greater flow, greater ease, greater freedom? Like, how can we set up a schedule that gives us more time to do what we actually want? So those are some things to think about as well.
Right. Which is so like the sixth and 12th house axis, right? Like,
Exactly.
how can we just be more spiritual in our day-to-day life? It's not like we're supposed to be out in the astral realms all the time. We're human beings as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have to. That's the thing. That's what I love about Virgo, because people, I feel like, don't realize that Virgo can also be very spiritual as well. Because I feel like our physical body is a spiritual instrument. Like, this is how we connect to the other side. And like, if we're not taking care of our body, if we're not getting sleep and all of those things, we're not open to the messages as we can be. So yeah, I love that dichotomy. And again, like the sun is going to continue opposing Neptune and Pisces for Virgo season. So this is kind of like a big theme, I feel like, for this year with Neptune and Pisces. But yeah, setting up a little like morning routine or spiritual routine, I think is going to be a good
Mhm.
use of this energy for anyone who's wanting to open up more of those sides of themselves.
Mhm. I love it. Any other like important transits for August?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the big things I wanted to highlight was really the full moon in Aquarius, to be honest, because again, it's the second full moon that we have in the sign. It's also conjunct Jupiter. So, really, this is actually the luckiest full moon of the entire year. And full moons representing a point of culmination, a point of like completion. So, I think a lot of us in August should be working towards Aquarius things, because we might see that some things start manifesting by the end of August
Mhm.
22nd, when the full moon becomes exact. And so I want us to all work towards that. And this might also be a time of endings or something being released, a closing of a cycle. So I think inner child healing is also going to be a big part of that as well, to figure out like what needs to be closed in order for us to move more fully into Virgo season.
Mhm. Because this full moon is also at the anaretic degree at 29.
Right. Yes. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. You're absolutely right. Exactly. I wonder also if we, with that, we might even see things happening collectively, like some kind of manifestation of like collective
Oh, I definitely think so.
Oh, really? What have you been sensing? That's so interesting.
Well, I feel like, well, just with Aquarian energy, you know, we had the first full moon in Aquarius where Jeff Bezos went off into space. Um, and
Wait, when did that happen?
that happened literally 2 days before this last full moon in Aquarius. So
Okay, okay.
that was last Friday. It happened on last Wednesday.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah, I see. It is definitely, yeah, within the time span. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's a second Saturn return. So
Mm,
I feel like another manifestation of that is some like revelation of technology or some like, I don't know. I'm not good at predicting these kind of things, but I just know
yeah.
that it's something, you know, we're all going to be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Hopefully,
wonder. It could be
hopefully for,
technological.
yeah, hopefully for the
Exactly.
betterment of humanity.
Seriously, seriously. I mean, I trust that all the things that are happening, pandemic included, are like that. Aquarius could also even be like a class action suit or something about the community or group coming together. Um, yeah, it'll be, I think, yeah, I think especially towards the end of the year is what I'm hearing from other mystics as well, that there may be more destabilization,
Mhm.
hopefully in positive ways, although in the end, I'm sure it is all for the service of the highest good.
Yes, because also Saturn and Jupiter are in retrograde, right? And like
Yes.
last year, Saturn and Jupiter were in the conjunction at
Mm-hmm.
0 degrees Aquarius. So it just gives me this like idea of whatever plants you seeds that you planted at that time, or whatever was in your consciousness. Now you're starting to see like a little bud,
Yes.
maybe not
Yes.
the whole flower, but the bud.
Yes, absolutely. You're so right. I did want to touch on that exactly because full moon in Aquarius, Aquarius reminds you of the great conjunction that happened in December 2022 or 2020. And so I definitely feel like a lot of us are going to start seeing results from that. Also, if you set any intentions during the February new moon in Aquarius, then some of those goals may come into fruition now as well. I also feel like with these full moons, it's a call for us to really move through and release the trauma of 2020, if that makes sense. Kind of really, because sometimes I feel like a lot of us have gotten into fight or flight mode that we haven't even taken a second to reflect and be like, oh my God, we went through all this craziness. We went through all the unrest, pandemic, and like we haven't allowed that negativity to fully move through and exit our system. So, at least for my clients, I've been recommending that you do a lot of like meditative work to reflect on what you've gone through,
Mhm.
feel that, and let it be released because full moons are really helpful in terms of releasing negative or stagnant energy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that was only 18 months,
Oh, it's
right?
crazy. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Oh my God, that reminds me though. You know what's I see as crazier too? In another 18 months or about like 2 years from now, March 2023 is when Pluto will enter Aquarius for the first time. And Pluto,
No way.
exactly. And this is like why a lot of people say this is the age of Aquarius because multiple transits,
Mhm.
major ones happening in Aquarius. And Pluto in Aquarius has not happened since the 1700s, like the American Revolution. And so in March 2023, Pluto is going to enter 0 degrees of Aquarius, where the Great Conjunction happened in
Uh,
2020. And so I feel like, you know, it's continuing to activate, it's continuing to bring portals of initiation. I think this is a wave of awakening, and the people who are awakening now are creating structures, systems, mentorships, all that stuff to help people in 2023 move further along that journey. So yeah, I'm excited.
I can't believe we're alive for this. I just have to say.
Exactly. That's the thing we all want everyone to get to, right? It's like I truly believe that there are souls out there waiting and dying to get into Earth because they know this is, you know, a life-changing, earth-changing event, basically.
Mhm.
And I also believe that we have all chosen to be here to share certain unique gifts. So
Yeah.
I really try to think about how exciting it is rather than all the scary
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. I
Mhm.
believe that we chose our natal charts. I believe we
Mm,
chose like our soul prints.
exactly.
And if you keep focusing on that, then it's easier, or not easier, like don't bypass, but
Mhm.
it's this is all for our growth, basically.
Exactly. Healing our own wounds, our ancestral wounds, and obviously the collective as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
Because even we were talking about our ancestral healing.
Hmm.
I feel like we have to do an American healing. We need to like
Yeah.
do some ancestral healing, cleansing of
Mhm,
this land. We need to
mhm.
do a lot of that stuff.
Exactly, and the ties to Native Americans as well, and all those things. I definitely feel like, yeah. And I hope that part of the conversation about race is that too. Um, not to make it about race, but it's like white people need their own healing. Like they need to connect to their culture, they need to connect to their roots, they need to feel a sense of their lineage and all of those things.
Mhm.
So hopefully that is happening as well.
Yeah, but you just said Pluto was going into, well, Pluto right now is in Capricorn, it's going into Aquarius, but that is America's Pluto return, right? And I think
Yes, you're right.
what you were just saying about Native, the indigenous people of
Yeah,
the land, I think that is what we have to do.
yeah.
You know,
That is absolutely exactly.
Pluto transiting an area of your life is regeneration, and
Mhm.
like, it can be incredibly harsh, but
But
it
death
can
comes
be
first and then rebirth.
exactly.
Exactly. So it is going to be very interesting. That is also why I feel like strongly that we need to focus on building local communities now and building like real life communities, because the idea of what it means to be a country or America or all those things is going to start shifting basically. And need to we need to be aligning to people who make us feel safe, and building new communities basically.
Yeah. I just have one more question.
Yeah.
I also feel like Saturn in Aquarius, or maybe not Saturn in Aquarius, but just Aquarian energy too, is like you have these large communities and collective over meeting over the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be incredibly cold and not as face to face, it's not as like, intimate, which maybe is why Saturn in retrograde is like maybe we need to like look at how we build these things for the long term.
Yeah, I love that statement, and I definitely feel like the internet has been such a blessing, but it is also such a curse, right? And there are definitely better ways that apps and social media sites can be built to not focus just so much on follower counts or likes or all of those things. Yeah, but I wonder how much we can make progress without having the real life interactions first. So it's kind of like chicken and egg, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do feel like that is an important part of the conversation. Although I do also feel like Saturn in Aquarius restricts our access to those things. So I do feel like certain centers of power or elites that be, I guess, may start trying to shut down internet forums or these types of groups that are trying to have these nuanced conversations because they don't want the status quo to change.
Right.
Mhm.
Who do you think they are? I'm just curious.
Yeah, this is where I can get into a lot of other deeper thoughts about conspiracy theories. But I mean, what I did also want to say before is that in terms of astrology, people a lot of times talk about the age of Aquarius. And with that, we have to understand that there is a wide cycle of time that the Earth moves through. It's called the precession of the equinox. It lasts about 24,000 years.
Mhm.
Half of that time is a dark cycle, and the other half is a light cycle. So I feel like as we are entering the light cycle, we are in the dark cycle now, but we are moving into the light cycle, and that's part of what it means to move into the age of Aquarius. But understanding that we are in a dark cycle now has helped me feel like there are dark occult black magic type of groups that are practicing dark spirituality essentially and are part of the reason why everything in the world seems to be inverted and all of our values are upside down. So I mean, I don't exactly know what these groups are, but I definitely feel like they're centered around dark occult, black magic, black spirituality basically.
Yeah. People who know even about astrology and how energy works.
Exactly. Like I think that's the big con that has been played on the public, is like making the collective feel like um, there is no God, religion is not a thing, or there is no higher power, when in reality, the people who push that message are practicing these things and they know that these things are real, they know about energy. And so it is like the great con, basically.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about, with everything in our government and how even marketing companies can use astrological events to their advantage.
Yeah.
And I think that even last year, the election in the United States was on like a crazy astrological date. I
Yeah,
think,
I remember. It was like the day
remember?
Mercury retrograde started.
Yes,
Yeah, it was like literally
yes,
talked about there's going to be confusion with communication and like
yes.
the whole like ballot stuff happened. Yeah, and like it was so uncanny.
Come on, there must be some astrologer in the White House.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because like I've even read like rumors that Donald Trump has used astrologers in the 80s and like really prominent
Yes.
people rely like Ronald Reagan, all those things.
Mhm.
So I do not think that, yeah, I don't think they're seeing astrology in the same way that they want the public to believe.
Right. Which is why I love that last year during the panorama, people were getting more into astrology and mysticism and tarot
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
bringing the power back to themselves.
Exactly, exactly. And I feel like this is part of the awakening, is like remembering our connection to these gifts. And we don't need some priest or pastor to tell us because it's within us, it's innate. So we just have to remember how to do these things. And I think that ability is really going to be activated next year with Jupiter in Pisces for the entire year.
Hmm. I'm interested to see what this brings because it's happening in my fourth house.
Jupiter in Pisces.
Yeah, so maybe
Oh.
moving or
You can buy a house or something, I guess. I do feel like it's a time of miraculous healing. So perhaps it'll be centered around your heritage, your culture, your roots, more ancestral healing things. I guess that is a big theme for you because you have Aquarius in the fourth house, and of course, so many transits in Aquarius the next couple of years.
Yes, exactly. Was there anything we missed about August?
I think those are the big things. Yeah, I just want to help people feel like they have the permission to do that, what they want. They should not be afraid to go after it. Again, you have more luck doing that than not, so why not try it out? And work towards the August 22nd full moon that can bring a lot more clarity and insight as well.
Okay, one last question. Not that there's a favorite, but out of all the months of 2021, what are you looking forward to?
That is a great question. A lot of things have passed. The Saturn square Uranus alignment, it happened in February, June, and it will also happen in December. So I'm just curious how the cycle will complete because we're going to have the final resolution in December. Again, I hope that it's something collective where there's like a victory in the side of humanity, in the side of community, in the side of like progress and all of those things. So perhaps towards the end of the year, November, December, we also have two eclipses, one in Taurus, one in Sagittarius. So I definitely feel like things are going to move a lot more rapidly. I don't know if it's like, we don't know if it's good or bad, but I definitely feel like energy is moving. And that's what I'm excited to see, is like feeling of progress and stagnant energy still being pushed through.
Oh, great. Amazing. Well, you do personal readings, right?
Yes, actually, I'm not doing them at the moment because I'm trying to focus on other offerings. But right now, I am primarily focusing on my membership program, which is the Lunar Mission Club. It is a beautiful group, actually, of soul-aligned entrepreneurs, baby tarot readers, spiritualists, and all those things. But every month we get together for live chats, Q&As, birth chart readings, and you can also get access to an entire library of courses for as part of the membership. So if you're interested in that, you can go to www.lunarmission.club.
Yeah, I'll link it in the show notes, and you
Okay,
can
perfect.
follow. You're still on Astro Forecast on
Yes,
IG. I love
exactly.
the videos. What is your Mercury? I forget.
I'm a Taurus, actually, which is funny. It's like slow but
Yeah, but you
practical.
speak so fast.
I blame that on my Aquarius side, my Aquarius rising and like my North Node and the Uranus alignments that I have. I've always, yeah. But the thing is, like, I think slow and I act really slowly. So it would take me forever to do certain things. So it's always a struggle, honestly, for me to balance both sides.
But I love the precision of how you speak, and
Oh,
also
thank you.
the fastness, because I'm a New Yorker, so it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
let's get it going.
Exactly. No, I'm like, you need to talk fast too, or you're going to lose my interest, actually. I also feel like I think fast and I say things fast. Not that it's a good thing, but I trip over my words a lot because I'm thinking too fast.
Well, I like it. I love it.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much, Cho. This was so exciting. I'm so excited for it this month, next month.
Yes, me too.
But yeah, see you soon.
Of course. Hopefully we connect sooner or later. But thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, same.